Welcome back to the Power of You Summit. I am your host, Phyllis King, and in this summit, we're speaking to 13 experts in the field of personal, spiritual, and health and wellness growth. And today, we're going to be speaking to Yeshua Halinen, and we're going to hear all about his points of view about power, how we can access our own power to create better lives for ourselves. So let me tell you a little bit about our guest. I'm putting my glasses on for that. He's really an artist at heart, but also as his title is a shamanic life coach. And his journey towards embracing his current role is diverse with inner and outer journeys. We'll learn much more about that. And he began as a server. Imagine that. And we all know those people we meet when we're enjoying our meals. And this led him to missionary work in the city of Newark, New Jersey. He studied theology and philosophy in the French Alps. He walked the Camino de Santiago, and then he had an incredible awareness, the understanding the illusion of separateness or aloneness from God. And there's so much more about him, but let's bring him on to the air so we can hear directly from him. Yeshua, thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Phyllis. It's a
Well,
pleasure.
and I appreciate you taking the time, but why don't you share, before we get into the power, what power actually means and how we get there for ourselves, share with the listeners and viewers a little bit about your journey and the things that really had impact on you to have you be where you are today.
Yeah, happy to. So the first place I'd probably start is I grew up in a very traditional and like a Presbyterian church.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, and that was challenging for me as a child because I felt that my power wasn't really it felt like it was taken away from me. And that was a
By
as a
conformity,
child.
you mean, of some sort?
Yeah, by conformity, by having to go to this place every Sunday, by being told I was wrong and sinful and all these things and essentially separate from God. And that was it was a box that I felt like I had to get out of somehow.
Well, and that makes sense. I know you have an extensive biography here that you didn't fully share with our audience, but it is on the website, the Power of You website. But it sounds like that box really caused you or inspired you to really try different avenues to find your peace, whether it was through earning income to traveling to whatever. But I know that you actually in 2016 decided you need to go join the protests of the Lakota Pipeline Access Challenge in the United States. Was that one of the more potent moments for you, or does something stand out?
Yeah, definitely. At that time, I experienced what I now know was a kundalini awakening. So a a vibration essentially at the base of the spine moving all the way up. And as it was happening, I was like, what is going on inside my body? I had no frame of mind to connect that to any kind of, what's the word? Something that you can grasp. So essentially, and then my life began to shift and change in a lot of different ways, and I began to see all these different synchronicities in my life around me, and I had this really interesting vision of the spirit guide, and I saw it walk into me, and then everything shifted, and my perspective. I felt like I could feel when I watched the videos of the tribes being persecuted in Standing Rock. They were being sprayed by the pepper spray, like these women praying in the river being sprayed, and I just felt their pain and the pain of consciousness and calling out to have people come up and step up. And so I quit my job at that time, and yeah, I went out to Standing Rock.
Well, and that's one of the things I noticed when reading your biography is that you have been amazingly courageous and to take certain risks, like leaving your employment, like traveling to other parts of the world, like really stepping outside of yourself, looking for answers and trying to experience something different. That says something.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I think the first time was when I decided to drop out of college. I was going for a psychology degree, and I sat in these classes, and it just seemed to all fall flat, and I didn't have the experience of something that was tangible, of something that had real worth to me. And I didn't think I thought I would leave 4 years of my parents spending 120 grand on my college education, and then that I would be left still not knowing what to do. And so the first step was going against my family's, you need to finish school. And so that first step of just being like, no, that's not my path. And that's where I ended up in restaurants. And
Well, and that in and of itself is really courageous. Many people do not have that courage to stand up to their tribe, their existing tribe and family to say, this is you and you do you, but I can't do you. I need to do me, and it's different. That takes a lot of courage. But as we come full circle here a bit on what you actually are, because I've been fortunate to see some of your artwork, which is really quite stunning and moving. But you're also a shamanic life coach, and I think we want to hear a little bit about that. But it seemed like it was born part of out of your Lakota experience, where you really had this deepening appreciation for the elements and the planet. And is that correct? Am I reading that correctly?
no, you are reading that correctly. And that came through my experience with spirit guides kind of teaching me how to connect to the elements and how to connect to creativity and the life force that moves through everything.
Okay.
And and essentially after those experiences, and then I began to transcribe that into drawing and into art in general. And now I use it as a meditation essentially to help people connect to their inner teacher and their inner guide.
Oh, that's super exciting. And I know we'll talk a little bit more about that later, as I think you're offering the viewers and listeners a tool to do that. But so let's kind of turn toward the topic of the power of you, because certainly you have an innate wisdom about this, because you were somehow able to access your power to be courageous and to take the steps you do in your life. But I'm certain in your work and in your groups that you do, you're doing that in some form. So how does a shamanic life coach and artist teach people how to do what you kind of innately learned or knew how to do? But how do we access that if it's not coming readily?
Yeah, I think one of the first steps to accessing that is learning to trust yourself. And
Oh boy. Okay.
and I think that's
Easy.
what yeah. Yeah, because of course we've been trained to do the opposite by culture and society and by our families. And so the first step is coming back to yourself and really learning to do that. And I teach this in different tools. One of it is the free gift, the meditation I give. Another one is a group experience that I host in person, and that one is a blindfolded experience called Latihan.
Oh
And
wow.
yeah, it's beautiful. It came from Indonesia. The person or the group that I learned from it essentially brought it. I think they found it in Mexico. It was being taught there, and they brought it to the West. And her name was Lori Handlers. And so essentially, the idea is to, in a group setting, you'll have boundaries around the room so you don't run into anything, and everyone's blindfolded, and they are guided to into a movement meditation where they're moving really slowly with the backs of their hands, uh, guided slowly. And when you come in contact with another person, you you kind of just feel into the energy, and it kind of becomes this beautiful dance. It's not a
Yeah.
sexual, it can be, but that's not the intention of it. The intention is to really just kind of go into like, okay, what feels right in this moment, and it teaches you to move and flow in the beautiful dance of life. And like I mean, even just in dancing is a beautiful. analogy of connecting to your power. And because yes, there are movements to certain dances, but at the same time, everybody moves to the beat of
Well,
their own
yeah,
drum.
that would make sense. But what I'm noticing as you share this particular experience, which we might break down momentarily, but it's following your own instinct about really getting right next to your fears and getting right next to, really sort of what you did, just jumping in, just diving into fears and listen, being able to learn to trust yourself. So I think your work must be quite powerful for people. And also, but I think the gentleness with which you're guiding people, you probably create an incredible space of safety for them. So for folks who can't necessarily get to your groups just yet, I mean, they can certainly schedule one-on-one coaching in person or in Zoom. You're down in Sedona, Arizona, is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. What might be one or two things you might suggest to someone to begin to trust themselves, which is the beginning of finding their power?
Yeah, in that way, I would probably say try my free gift from this Power of You Summit. It's called Drawing Source, and that's a beautiful way because you can just do it alone. It's a simple meditation that I guide you into, and then the other would be to find some sort of daily practice, like say A Course in Miracles, for example, is a great one to help tap you into your inner teacher. Um, and really listen to that. It's a practice of listening to that still quiet voice within that is telling, there is a consciousness inside of each one of us that we feel in our being that tells us, the more we listen to it, the louder it gets. And
Yeah.
the more we feel, it's almost like the universe is celebrating us as we take a step towards that direction. And sometimes that step, really actually a good locator for going in the right direction, is where do you feel the fear,
Yeah.
and move that way slowly and with caution, but move that way, and ask for help.
Yeah. Well, and I think, some of us more mainstream type practitioners would say, really getting out of the comfort zone. But I love this idea of how we can develop trust with ourselves. And so let's talk a bit more about this gift you're offering, which you took special time to make a meditation just for this summit. It's not available anywhere else. So what is it? What happens? I mean, do you have to be an artist? I mean, there's no way I can draw like you. I've seen your work. It's not happening. Do you have to be an artist? How does that work?
No, you don't need to be an artist for this. Like with dancing, I would say, everybody, like, on the dance floor, I've heard it again and again. I can't dance. When I ask somebody like, hey, why aren't you out there? And they're like, I can't dance. And I'm like, you can dance. You need the courage to go out and move your body a little bit. And if you allow yourself to do it, I think you'll have fun. And I think you'll actually have a beautiful experience. And I think it's true with art. If people actually allow themselves to pick up a pen and to draw, or a paintbrush or whatever it may be, that they can then, so the meditation involves humming, which helps us get out of our helps us get out of our own mind. It quiets the mind and allows you just to play. And there's kind of comes in the inner child, and it's this dissolving of the inner, like, because of the dissolving of the inner critic, it allows you to go ahead and get into that flow, and then
Mhm.
you just see this beauty unfold. And I
And
think,
what I love about this just in general is that I think words can only do so much.
yeah.
We can only get so far with words. Words are great, but there's something about healing and accessing ourselves through things that don't require language. So I can't wait to do this meditation myself. I'm really looking forward to it now that I know I don't have to be an artist and I don't have to critique myself for my stick figures or whatever emerges. Just going to trust the process. But I think that's wonderful. And I think they're going to access this, the viewers on your Instagram page. Is it at Yeshua Halinen, or how do folks access you in general?
Yeah, it's at Yeshua Halinen, on my Instagram page. I am hopefully going to have my website available. I'm working in the next little while to get that live. So hopefully they can do it there instead, which
Well,
would,
that would be wonderful. And I know you artist types, you're kind of resistant to the whole technology craze. It's new for kids these days. I'm kidding. But I'm sure at least they can find you on Instagram and certainly through me. Well, is there anything else you'd like to say to our listeners and viewers in our closing moments about power or yourself or anything you feel called to share with them?
I'd say that one thing really is important, and that in accessing your own power, we're not giving it away all the time, and sometimes that means creating boundaries, and especially from people who are critiquing you all the time in a way that's not uplifting, and and those boundaries don't have to be huge, but it can be as much as saying, hey, I need a minute by myself, or like I'm not gonna listen to that right now, or something like that. And then the other part would be to then go ahead and do what you want to do. Like, don't live somebody else's life. You only get one.
Well, I love this message of permission. I mean, we all need that. And so that's wonderful. Well, Yeshua, thank you so much for being here today. We appreciate you and look forward to what comes next for you. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me, Phyllis. I appreciate it.
Okay, so thanks everyone for tuning in today. And tomorrow we'll have a new expert. I'm Phyllis King and tuning out from The Power of You. Have a wonderful day.